Hey everybody, in the last video I ran out of time to do the production possibilities curve. So this is video number 3 and this is going to be about production possibilities curve. So let's start. So the production possibilities curve is a graph, like pretty much everything else you're going to see in economics from now on. And this is what it's going to look like. So let's see. Here you have point A. The bottom you're going to have point B, point C, point D, E, and F. So these points don't really signify anything right now. I'm just showing some points on the graph that I'm going to explain to you in a second what they really mean. Alright, so this relates back to the graphs we were using in comparative and the comparative advantage graph, where this is where a firm is producing. Let's say this is going to be good X, and this is going to be good Y. So remember the graphs we were doing? Point A right here on the Y-axis, that represents the fact that they're making only good X. Because look at it this way. Since it's right here on the Y-axis, when you go down from A, it hits 0 right here. It doesn't actually hit the X-axis where good Y is produced. So that means 0 good Y is produced. You should know that from math, from regular algebra. So Y means all production goes towards good X. Now let's go down to B. B means same thing but in reverse. All production is going towards good Y. Because you don't see any, when you go up from B, you don't see any of that hitting this curve, which is where you can produce. So B is producing all of good Y with no good X. Now, C and D basically just mean I'm producing some of good Y and some of good X. Okay. Sum of X and sum of Y. Whichever one's closer to good X on the curve, that's going to be making more of good X, and whichever is closer to good Y on the curve is making more of good Y. So D makes more of good Y, and C makes more of good X. Because if you go up and down from good C, this is where you're producing of good Y at C, and this is where you're producing of good X at C. So C, C. You can see you're producing a lot more right here. Look at all that area. You're making a lot more of good X than you're making of good Y, which is just here. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Next, good F and E. Good E, anything under this curve means you can make it, you have the resources to make it, but it's inefficient. The curve is the point where you're maximizing production and you can make the maximum of those items. So all the way up to this curve is your ability to produce. Because let's say you have, let's use the Nintendo example. Let's say Nintendo has 40 CDs. So those CDs will allow them to produce as many video games as up to this curve and everything in between. But why would you produce under the curve? If you're producing under the curve, that means you're using less than 40 CDs. That's inefficient. Anything under the curve, for example, point E, that's a point of inefficiency. You're not maximizing production and you're not using all of your resources. If you were using all of your resources, you would use all 40 of those CDs, and where you're producing would be somewhere on this curve up here. So since that curve up here is the maximum production, what do you think point F over here means? Well, point F is an unreachable curve. Everything above this line is unreachable. What that means is you have those 40 CDs, and anything above that you can't make more than 40 video games. So when you look at point F, that looks like a lot more than 40 video games because it's above your production possibilities curve. Good F, in this case, let's just estimate, Good F would be about, let's say it's 50 video games. Well, that's more than the 40 we can make, so it's outside our range and we can't produce it. It's unattainable or unreachable. Both terms you're going to see on the AP exam. So, is there any way for us to reach F? Well, actually there is, through technology. Technology allows us to produce things better and faster. Think about when the factory came out. People used to be making, everything used to be made by regular hand labor, and it was produced all the way down here, not much. They were producing very minimal output. But once factories came out and they could produce a lot more, imagine how much it jumped to like here. They can make a lot more stuff now. Let's take that away. So, for example, if a new machine comes out that allows you to make video games better and faster, this production possibilities curve will move outward. That means they can now make more of that product. So now, pretend it's actually on F. So you would actually be able to reach F, and that's where you'd be able to build. So you'd be able to build in all of this area now that it extended towards. Now there's one more thing involved in this, and that's the fact that you can also shift the curve inward. But how does that happen? Like, come on, we got technology, why can't we build more? Well, let's think about it this way. Let me make another page. Okay, so you have those curves. You have your curve here. And let's say, for example, that's what you can produce given your workers, given your factors of production, given how much land you have, given how much workers you have, given how much materials you have, how much entrepreneurship you have, and how much capital you have. Let's use labor as an example. What if suddenly the labor force, which is the amount of people working, got decreased? There was a disease around and a lot of people died. So now, since a lot of people died, you're going to have less workers. Since the amount of workers decreases, you can make less and your curve moves inward. So that's how that's going to be. Also, another way is, let's say capital. Let's say your machines break down. That'll move you inward, because look, now instead of, let's talk about Wendy's. One of your grills breaks down, you can make less burgers now. So instead of being able to make, let's say, 40 burgers, now you can make 20 burgers. That's the capital example. A big example you could see is like farming and agriculture. There's a serious drought, and so now that there's drought, all of your crops died, and some of your land is withered, the amount you can make now is severely decreased from that drought. So that's basically the production possibilities curve and everything associated with it. So thanks for watching. I hope you understand this. It's going to be pivotal on the AP exam. It's on there every year. Count on it. And check out the notes in the download center. And talk in the comments among your peers. And thanks for watching.